my kids, we've been talking about what is faith, Dad? Because is faith just believing something? Like, because I mean, we're being raised in this house to believe in Jesus, to believe in the Old and New Testament and all this stuff. But we're coming to learn that there's other people out there with different views, and they're smart. They're not dumb people. Ben Shapiro. I mean, my son likes Daily Wire, so he's like, oh, Ben Shapiro's a Jew, So how do we deal with this? And what I tell them is, no, Christianity is not a blind faith where you just choose a faith. I do think that there is a relatively simple way to funnel down the probability of what is true. Mm-hmm. And I try to tell my kids, look, there's the altar where we have divine and Catholic faith. We believe in God who revealed himself. He cannot lie. No matter what happens, I believe what he said. But when you go into like apologetics, I view it as a different room, like a scientific laboratory, where propositions weigh out on probability and not so much on absolute empirical proof. We're this little ball floating in the middle of space. Right. Some of us are standing sideways on the equator and we're not falling off. There's got to be a God, right? As most people, and I'm not trying to insult atheists, because atheists can be the smartest people in the world. But if you were to see, like if you're laying down at the beach and you see a little ball start to float in the sky, and then a number of other balls join it, and start moving around, and you see that there's order to it, you're not going to look at that and say, oh, hey, that's another one of those accidents just minimized to 5 seconds instead of billions of years. Nobody's going to do that. They're going to be like, something's going on here. Either somebody's doing that or there's a God, So we all know that there's a God, this little ball floating in the middle of nowhere. Is it likely that God would reveal himself? I think it is. I think it's more likely that if an intelligent being created this little ball and created creatures like us, that he revealed himself. Okay, well, where did he reveal himself? Well, you've got some historical religions that at least claim to hold this.
It's like you've got one in a way.
Well,
because you've got Judaism, which is
right. I was just going to say
predates Christianity, and then you've got essentially a Christian heresy, which is Islam.
Islam, yeah. Good point.
So it's not like there's a multiplicity of religions who are claiming God is revealed. There's one.
Yeah.
And the fruition of Judaism is Christianity.
Yeah. I'll have to go and tell my kids, oh, Matt Fradd said this. But I mean, the way I said it was, well, you've got Judaism, Christianity, which is the tree out of the root of true Judaism, and then you've got Islam. All the other religions are from the bottom up,
How do we seek God?
How do we find God? And I'm not trying to discount, because I know some people are like, well, this guy just doesn't understand. I want to just put it all under the category of from the bottom up, because when I was a skeptic, I looked at religion that way, as everybody just trying to get on a 10-foot ladder to grab the stars. It's just, how can you...
that's a beautiful way of putting it.
When you've got this task of wanting to find God and then come down from your 10-foot ladder with all these details, I just couldn't put up with that. So when I was coming to understand that, no, get that ladder off of this, God came down. And he didn't make it so unmistakably clear as if he writes in the clouds every day, hey, believe in the Old and New Testament, and look at this wonderful miracle I'm going to do again to convince the skeptics, every day. He doesn't do that, but he has given sufficient appetizers, I think, to make it unmistakably clear that miracles have happened. And so, for example, when Moses asked God, how are they going to believe me? I'm just I don't really speak that well. You want me to go to the people of Israel, and like, what if? I mean, he was smart. Like, what? How are they? I mean, anybody can claim that they saw something in a bush. He's like, well, put your hand into your cloak, take it out, and he's like, well, the power to change my arm from leprous, from being fair to leprous back to fair, then changing a rod to a snake, then back to a rod. That shows that wherever Moses came from, it had power over nature. And if it had power over nature, then it knows more than us. That's like an appetizer. Look at what he just did. What are our options here? Well, he just changed his hand from being fine to leprous and back. Only the one who has power over creation can do that. So whatever Moses is saying has to be traced back to the Creator, the one who has power over nature. So that's how they can have faith. The Israelites had faith. Because sometimes people think, see, we have faith because we don't see. But Moses saw, Abraham saw, the apostles saw. So how did they have faith in the resurrection? They saw it, right? Yeah. Well, they saw a great deal of what God wants us to believe. But there is still a darkness beyond that.
Yeah.
And so the darkness for the Israelites was, we're getting the heck out of Egypt, right? That was the darkness. They had to trust in that. But what they saw empirically was that man just changed his arm and changed that rod to a snake. That's a big appetizer for me. I'm staying for the full course, right? That's where faith, so it's not blind. You're looking at God's appetizers that he's throwing out in the world. And the biggest one is the resurrection of Jesus. That is the feast. But there's also much blackness behind it, because what does the resurrection mean?
It's funny you say that. Jordan Peterson was just pressed by Alex O'Connor. Do you think if you had a video camera, you would see a man kind of walking out of his tomb? And I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but Peterson said, probably yes. And then he immediately said, but I have no idea what that means.
Well, that gets us into, what did the one who rose from the dead, what did he say about the implications?
Yeah.
That's how the apostles had faith without sight, is because, yes, they saw the corpse of Jesus. They saw him alive again, gloriously glistened with light. But they still had the blackness of what this means for them in their future. What it's going to mean when he departs into the sky. What are they going to do next Saturday? That they had to walk by faith. Mm-hmm. Paul saw the resurrected Jesus, and yet he says we walk by faith, not by sight. So I think that to the diligent seeker, the diligent knocker, it does come down to God has spoken through the Old Testament and the New Testament. And that I do think it brings you into the circle of, well, Christianity is true. Jesus Christ is true.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.